Chapter 2. The Cathedral of Thorns. The transition from the clearing of the bone-white birch to the deep heart of the forest was not measured in miles, but in the degradation of Elias's sanity. The air in the Blackroot had grown thick, not with fog, but with a suspended, viscid particulate that tasted of old copper and funeral lilies. Every breath felt like swallowing damp velvet. Elias crawled rather than walked. His legs felt heavy, as if the very gravity of the woods was trying to anchor him into the muck. The trees here were different. They weren't the soaring pines of the upper slopes. They were stunted, arthritic things with trunks that spiraled in ways that hurt the eyes to track. They were called skin trees by those few who had glimpsed them and lived to tell of it, and Elias now understood why. The bark didn't just look like hide, it moved. It twitched in response to his touch, shivering with a low, subaudible hum that vibrated in his teeth. As he pushed through a curtain of weeping moss, the forest opened into a terrifying architecture. The ribs of the earth. It was a cathedral made of agony. Massive arches of petrified wood rose hundreds of feet into the air, woven together by miles of human hair, some blonde, some gray, some blood-stained, all braided into thick, pulsing cables. This was the Weaver's loom, the central nervous system of the Blackroot. In the center of this grotesque cathedral sat a throne of calcified bone. Surrounding it were thousands of the translucent bladders Elias had glimpsed in the mirror's reflection. They hung from the ceiling like overripe fruit, each one glowing with a soft, flickering amber light. These were the jars of the forest, the stored experiences of everyone who had ever stepped over the salt line. Elias saw a bladder inches from his face. Inside he saw a flickering image of a soldier returning home from a long-forgotten war. He could feel the soldier's relief, the smell of his mother's cooking, the specific weight of a medal in his pocket. Then a black needle, thin as a hair, pierced the bladder from above. The golden light was sucked upward, leaving the bladder gray, shriveled and dead. "Do you see, Elias?" The voice was everywhere. It was in the mud beneath his fingernails. It was in the beat of his own heart. From the shadows of the hair-braided rafters, she descended. The Weaver's descent. She did not fall, and she did not fly. She unfolded like a dead spider being reanimated by lightning. The Weaver was a towering silhouette of impossible angles. Her body was a lattice of wet obsidian twigs, and her fingers were long, multi-jointed needles of polished bone. Her face was the most harrowing part. It was a mask made of cracked white porcelain, but it wasn't a single piece. It was a mosaic of hundreds of different faces, a child's chin, a woman's cheek, a man's brow, all stitched together with pulsing silver wire. Behind the porcelain mask, there was no flesh, only a swirling vortex of black smoke that smelled of extinguished candles. "You are a collector of images, Elias Thorne," she hissed, her voice a discordant harmony of a dozen stolen voices. "You capture the light so you don't have to feel the dark, but here, the dark captures you." Elias tried to scream, but his tongue felt like a lead weight. He tried to reach for the hunting knife at his belt, but his fingers refused to close. He was a prisoner of his own biology, his nervous system hijacked by the spores of the forest. The weaver drifted closer, her porcelain face inches from his. He could see his own terrified reflection in the black pits of her eyes. "I do not eat the meat," she whispered, a needle finger tracing the line of his jaw. "The meat is bitter. I eat the why. I eat the reason you love. I eat the reason you hope. And when I am done, I will give you back to the world. You will be a perfect machine. You will eat, you will sleep, and you will stare into the little light in your hand until your heart forgets to beat." The Unmaking of the Man. The extraction began not with pain, but with a horrific, forced nostalgia. The weaver pressed her bone-needle fingers into Elias's temples. Suddenly, the forest vanished. Elias was standing in his kitchen 3 years ago. The sun was streaming through the window, catching the dust motes in the air. His wife, Sarah, was laughing, her hair messy from sleep, holding a cup of coffee. "Look at her, Elias," the weaver whispered in his ear. "Feel how much you love her. Feel that ache in your chest, the one that says you would die for her." Elias felt it. It was a radiant, burning heat in the center of his soul. It was the anchor of his entire existence. "Now," the weaver said, "watch it burn." She pulled. Elias felt a sensation like a hot wire being dragged through his brain. The image of Sarah began to blur. He tried to scream her name, but he realized with a jolt of pure terror that he was forgetting what she looked like. Her face became a smudge. The sound of her laughter turned into the screech of a rusted gate. The love, the beautiful, burning heat, turned into a cold, hollow vacuum. The weaver pulled a shimmering, golden thread from his head. She wound it around her needle fingers, humming a tuneless song. "One," she said. Next came Lily. Elias was transported to the day his daughter was born. He felt the weight of her in his arms, the terrifying realization of a love so large it felt like it might break his ribs. He felt the smell of her skin, milk and honey and newness. "This is your masterpiece, isn't it?" the weaver mocked. "The thing you truly live for." She didn't just pull this time. She tore. Elias fell to his knees in the mud of the cathedral, clutching his head. He felt the father part of his brain being lobotomized. The memories of Lily's first steps, her first word, the way she tucked her head into his neck when she was scared. They were being harvested like wheat. He watched them fly into the weaver's maw, glowing bright for a second before being extinguished in her black throat. The shell's arrival. The process lasted for what felt like centuries. One by one, the weaver stripped him of his colors. She took his passion for photography, leaving him with the technical knowledge of a camera, but no desire to ever touch one again. She took his grief for his dead father, leaving him with a dry, factual memory of a funeral, but no sense of loss. She took his fear, leaving him with a chilling, mechanical indifference. When she was finished, Elias was no longer a man. He was a biological record. The weaver stepped back, her porcelain mask glowing with the stolen light of his life. She looked bloated, her obsidian limbs trembling with the influx of his stolen essence. "You are ready," she said, her voice now sounding strangely flat, as if she had lost interest in him the moment he was empty. She gestured with a spindly hand. The wall of the cathedral, The braided hair and the screaming wood parted. Beyond it lay a path. It didn't lead deeper into the woods. It led to a paved road. He could see the glint of a street lamp in the distance. "Go," the Weaver commanded. "The world is waiting for you. You have so much scrolling to do." The Return. Elias stood up. He didn't feel the thorns that had shredded his clothes. He didn't feel the cold mud between his toes. He didn't feel the crushing weight of the tragedy that had just occurred. He felt nothing. He walked toward the road with a steady, rhythmic gait. His eyes were wide and unblinking. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his smartphone. The screen was cracked, but it flickered to life. The blue light hit his face, casting a ghostly, unnatural pallor over his features. He didn't look back at the Blackroot Forest. He didn't wonder where his camera was. He didn't think of Sarah or Lily. His thumb hovered over the screen. Swipe. An advertisement for a brand of sneakers. Swipe. A video of a cat falling off a table. Swipe. A political argument between strangers. Elias Thorne stepped out onto the asphalt. A car honked, its headlights blindingly bright. He didn't flinch. He just kept his eyes on the 5-inch screen, his thumb moving with the precision of a clock. He was home, but there was no one left inside to inhabit the house. End of Chapter 2.